Hey, it's Faith Talk Live. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
You're watching Facebook Live or YouTube Live. There he is. He's back. Ron Deal, best-selling author and speaker. I think last time, Ron, we talked about your book with Dr. Gary Chapman, if I remember correctly.
That's
Building Love
correct.
Together in Blended Families. First of all, how are you?
I'm good. I'm COVID safe right now. And isn't that a blessing?
That is definitely a blessing. Yes, for sure.
We're doing the best we can.
We wanted to check. Now, are you out and about speaking publicly, or what's going on with you?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be in the ATL here in just a couple of months. We're hosting our annual Summit on Step Family Ministry right there in Marietta. It's a 2-day event for ministry leaders, pastors, elders, lay couples, anybody who does anything related to marriage and family ministry. This is your opportunity to understand more about step families, blended families, sometimes called, and how to minister to them in a local church and their children, how to minister to them through children's ministry, youth ministry, all of those different angles.
Wow. That sounds like it could be a full week conference to cover all that.
You're right. There's a lot there. We've done this every year now for 8 years. And by the way, a lot of that back content is available online through an all-access digital pass. People can contact us if they're interested in any of that. But the bottom line is we're trying to help churches be relevant to today's families. And as you guys may know, 40% of parents raising kids are blended families.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people. And really, honestly, the church is way behind. So we're just trying to help church catch up.
Yeah.
Ron Deal talking about step families, blended families, step families. I saw an interview with you, Jim Daly and John Fuller and Dr. Chapman as well. 40%, I think Jim Daly brought this up, 40% of families in America are blended families. Yeah. And something I just thought of too, I have noticed in our little community, in our church, we have grandmas taking care of grandchildren, and not just from one parent, of many. So that's a blended family of sorts, isn't it?
It is. And, at the end of the day, it comes back to family disintegration. When the family is strong and healthy, parents are raising their kids are living with mom and dad, and they have a fighting chance. I mean, the world and our culture is just working against us all the time. And so family structure really matters. Anytime there's some fragmentation, whatever the backstory is, and that could be because of the death of a parent. It could be because of financial loss. It could be because, medical situations, and whatever that fragmentation comes from. Sometimes it is divorce that leads to that. It does lead to more vulnerable family circumstances, especially for children. Sometimes that means grandma ends up raising children. She didn't see that coming. They didn't see that coming. Thank God she steps in the gap. What we really want in family ministry is supporting families of all shapes and sizes. No matter what they look like today, we want to help them walk with God into the future. And that's part of what we do, is deal with that fragmentation that has happened for some families. And then we help them say, all right, God's redeeming. We don't know what he's doing. We're going to trust him in this journey. Let's move forward from this point.
Ron Deal, you also host the Family Life Blended podcast. Talk about what you guys have been talking about on the podcast lately.
Man, we do a deep dive on lots of subjects. And, recently, Mother's Day, Father's Day, not too far away, we had a big features on stepdad and what it is to be a stepmom and what does that look like. Some of our most popular podcasts downloaded have to do with sexuality in a second marriage. There's some nuances there. Co-parenting is a big one. Okay, so many blended families have at least 2 co-parents, meaning there are 4 adults trying to raise the children, right? So if both couples were divorced previously, for example, children are moving between those 2 households, and the new partners to the blended family come together and bring kids. Sometimes there's 5, 6 adults spread out across many different children that are connected to trying to raise the children. That means cooperation. That means how do we get along between the households so that children have thriving environments. That's complicated. That's difficult. We spend a lot of time talking about co-parenting. Another popular is dealing with holidays and just the schedule of life. Right now, school's getting back into swing. We did a podcast with school administrators, teachers, and a school counselor talking about how do you help your child thrive in school when they're moving between two different households. How do you cooperate with the other home, talk to the teachers? What do they need to know and understand about the child's life? A lot of those things really speak into the world that blended families live in. And that's the kind of thing we produce on Family Life Blended.
Something that comes up from time to time, family values. You mentioned what you really have a couple of sets of parents, and what's good here in the home may not be so much on the other side, and there's a constant friction, and not just with the parents. I mean, with the kids. Hey, they let me do this over there. How come I can't do it here? Is that, do you just kind of pick your battles in that situation, or where do you begin?
Yeah, great question, Rick. Yes, you're always trying to pick your battles, I think, as a parent. And in other words, there's always some risk involved with a battle. But what we always want to do, the heart and the attitude we always want to have is one of respect for the child's other parent and other home.
Yeah.
An attitude that says, hey, we're going to love our neighbor. And in some cases, it feels like an enemy. So you got to love your enemy. And how do I then talk to my child about the realities of God's kingdom versus the world's kingdom that they're being exposed to in the other home? Now, I always tell blended family parents who are really in a stressful situation like this, I say, look, every parent with every child, no matter what family situation they're in, has to do this. We all have to deal with the world's influence on our kids. Yeah. For people in a first marriage, first family where they're raising their children, that happens when the kids get to be teenagers, when they get their smartphone. The world is now entering their world, and it is influencing who they are, and social media. And we have to combat those things as we send our kids out into life, right? Mm-hmm. Well, for people who have a co-parent in the other home who has a very different value set than what you're trying to live Christ and they're not, that may start when your child is 5. It's not when they're 14. It's when they're 5 or 7 or 9, and it comes in the form of, how do I equip my child to go over to their mom or dad's house and deal with the kinds of influences they're going to receive over there? I cannot be derogatory or negative about their parent. That just creates enemies, and that's bad on me. That's not living Christ either. But how do I talk about truth in a way that's loving, equipping, and trying to inform my child so that they carry some value with them when they go over to the other home? It's not easy, but it's something we all do at some point in every child's life.
Ron, talk about the stress that is put on kids in being a part of a blended family, because obviously it's not God's design for the families to have the kid at mom's house for a week and then at dad's house for a week and back and forth, and having to do all these adjustments that you just talked about. I mean, that's got to be super stressful on the kids, whether they know it or not.
Yeah, it's there. There's I used that word intentionally a little while ago, a fracturing of their heart and their life. So they have a world and a life with mom. They have a world and a life at dad's house and all that comes with it. And, one of the things we know about children is they just continue to love their parents. They don't really care about the backstory. Who was at fault? They don't really care about that stuff. They just love dad and love mom and want to continue those relationships. But they do care about what happens after the divorce, if you will. Now, so if dad recouples and now there's a stepmother and maybe now there's step siblings, I mean, the kids are still invested in what's going on in that world and in their life. They're loyal. They're deeply loyal to biological parents, which means they have to find a way to open space in their heart for the new step parent, new step siblings. And sometimes that's easy. Sometimes that's pretty difficult, depending on the situation. And sometimes for some kids, that's times 2. In other words, they're doing that at dad's house and they're doing that at mom's house. So even as I'm describing this, I hope maybe your listeners are thinking, yeah, wow, that's a kid in my world or my life or my neighbor or something. What can I do? Well, you know what? You can be compassionate for that. You can actually bring it up. Here's the amazing thing. Ask a kid, you know what? I care about you. Maybe it's a child in your children's ministry program and you're a volunteer. I care about you. And it just occurred to me that it might be kind of stressful sometimes moving between dad's house and mom's house. You ever feel caught in the middle? Let me tell you, that will open up a kid who trusts you and sees you as a neutral party to this situation and somebody they can talk to. Right. They'll start telling you how they feel. They don't always come out with that with their parents because they don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Sometimes it's hard to articulate it. They're careful and cautious about the people they love. But with a youth pastor or a volunteer, like, wow, yes, thank you for asking. I do sometimes just hate having to take my math book everywhere I go. I hate having to live out of a backpack sometimes. And most of the time, my parents don't really talk to one another very well. So they don't have any idea what's happening with me at school. You know, my mom may know, but she didn't tell my dad, so he doesn't know. So I really can't talk to him about it. And I feel like I get lost in the mix. Those are important little moments for kids to be able to talk to somebody about.
Definitely.
Ron Deal, we always love talking to him. You can check out his stuff. Dan will put the website there. It's familylife.com/blended or rondeal.org. Real quick, Ron, what do you see coming up the pike as far as not necessarily blended families, but families that maybe you're going, oh, we have to dig into this and come up with some answers. So what do you see coming up?
Well, you know, families are continuing to get more complex and various forms. One of the things I see coming is, you know, more and more interracial families. And that's a blend of a different kind. And sometimes you have blended families that have blended backgrounds, cultural backgrounds. And so they're trying to merge a whole lot of things. You know, those are the kind of things that we're continually looking at. How are families changing? Cohabitation obviously is more and more pressing on families. And that's true before anybody marries a first time, but it's also true. Cohabitation is something people are moving toward before they form a blended family. Maybe they've been through the death of a spouse and they, at the age of 55, they'd rather just not get married again, but they start living together. You know, those are things we want to bring the light of God's grace to and speak to and help people see how God really is looking out for them. One thing I got to throw in here, guys, I got a new book coming out in September called Preparing to Blend. I'm so excited about this. You know, every church probably has some sort of premarital education program for couples that are getting married. I would venture to say that very, very few churches or leaders do anything to help couples prepare to be a blended family.
Right.
In this book, we're giving couples a do-it-yourself guide if they want to just read and study themselves, but we're also giving churches a premarital education program in a box or in a book, I guess I should say, a turnaround piece pastors can use today with pre-blended family couples that is 10 sessions that gets to the heart of how life is going to be after the wedding for them and their kids. It doesn't just prepare the couple, it also prepares the kids. The activities include the children and bring them into the picture, let them have a voice and figure out what's going on with their life and how they feel about it. I'm very excited about this. That's what we're going to be unpacking this year at our Summit on Step Family Ministry in October in the Atlanta area. So we'd love to have people join us and learn all about this new book and new program for churches.
Wow. That's
Love that.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Ron Deal, check it out, rondeal.org, familylife.com/blended. Ron, we'd love to pick up with you in October, talk more about what's going on there and the new book. Pretty pumped about that as well. That's good stuff. Hey, we got to take a break. We appreciate you so much, all of you guys there, and your entire family. Blessings to you. We got to take a break. We'll be right back. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
This is Faith Talk Live.